which I've never listened to. But I was
Hello, listeners. Thank you for tuning in. We're at Q4 Station. We have a very special night. We have Patrick Ogle of Thanatos here. He's going to play a live set, and then we're going to do an interview. He is an ex-reporter for the Miami Herald, a fine artist also, a recording artist on Projekt Records, history enthusiast. He's got a lot of things going for him. He's a talented man, and we're about to hear him play a live set, and then we'll talk in a bit. All right. Do you want to say a little bit about what you're saying?
I didn't know how we were going to do it.
Yeah, if you want to say
whatever you want.
Okay. Welcome.
So I will give you a little bit of a story, and that is that my most recent release is a bunch of country music covers, which has led to a number of people thinking I'm a country artist, which is of course not true. But here's a song. I was a highway. Oh, sorry. I was a highwayman. Along the coach roads I did ride, with sword and pistol by my side. Many a young maid lost her baubles to my trade. Many a soldier shed his lifeblood on my blade. The bastards hung me in the spring of 25, but I am still alive. I was a sailor, I was born upon the tide, and with the sea I did abide. I sailed a schooner round the Horn to Mexico. I went aloft and furled the mainsail in a blow. And when the yards broke off, they say that I got killed. But I am living still. I was a dam builder, across the river deep and wide, where steel and water did collide. A place called Boulder on the wild Colorado. I slipped and fell into the wet concrete below. They buried me in that great tomb that knows no sound, but I am still around. I'll always be around and around and around and around and around. I fly a starship across the universe divide, and when I reach the other side, I'll find a place to rest my spirit if I can. Perhaps I may become a highwayman again, or I may simply be a single drop of rain. But I will remain, and I'll be back again and again and again and again. Of course, that song was made famous by the Highwaymen, which was Chris Christopherson, Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, and Waylon Jennings. It was written by Jimmy Webb, and people will remember him from, he wrote Up, Up, and Away, and My Beautiful Balloon, and 100 other songs. And I always felt like that was a great song because it's like this Buddhist country song, about reincarnation and whatnot. Oh, here's, oh. Could you do me a favor? Guitar case, inside of it, there's a capo. I'll play something else in the meantime. One of my great new terrible habits is that I always have music and words in front of me because I'm terrified I'm going to forget them. And the reason for that is that I often forget them. And so even songs I've played 1,000 times. This is a song off of the third Thanatos record, Blisters. It is not the song Blisters, it is the song No Longer at Ease. There used to be a time when it all seemed mine, like I had held out was all I needed to grasp. I could stand as I like, act as I please, yet now I am no longer at ease. It's in the case that's the little thing that's inside of it. I can't see it. It's the little thing that's the little thing you open up. I'm sure this is scintillating for anybody that's actually watching or listening to us. And there's a little, there should be a little metal thing in there. All right. All right. I was such a professional. At least I didn't leave it at home. That's what I would usually do. Here's a song. It's off the first record. It's called What Happens Next. Never been able to come to terms with moving on. Each step forward makes me miss the one I left behind. Wake up on Sunday, then wait till Monday when I leave my room. I wonder why I let things go until it's just no use. I'll stand up, try to take control of things. I'm older now and just being me is not a jinx. ran into someone who really turned my head around. I didn't think that would happen again this side of the ground. Sometimes chance just seems to grab you by the throat. Say hello and then you're giving up the ghost. Assuming things will turn out wrong can be your pretext. It's all worth it, you can't know what happens next. I always want to do that one and just have an interminable, like 20 minutes of la la la's after the end. I haven't actually done that yet. That can only do that if the doors are locked from the outside. I'm looking through. Here's one. Nah. Oh boy. I'm having a hard time finding a song here. How about this one? This is a cover. It's by the Drive-By Truckers. Decoration Day, I've a mind to roll a stone on his grave. What would he say? Keeping me down, boy, it won't keep you away. It's Decoration Day. I knew the hill boys would put him away, but my daddy wasn't afraid. He said we'll fight till the last Lawson's last living day. I never knew how it all got started. A problem with Holland before we were born. I don't know the name of the boy we tied down and beat till he just couldn't walk anymore. But I know the caliber in Daddy's chest. I know what Holland Hill drives. The state let him go, but I guess it was best, 'cause nobody needs all us Lawsons alive. Daddy said one of the boys had come by, the lumberman's favorite son. He said beat him real good, but don't dare let him die. And if you see Holland Hill run. Now I said we ain't brought us trouble before. We ain't brought down on ourselves. Put a chain on my back and my ear to the floor, and I'll send all the hill boys to hell. I'll send all the hill boys to hell. It's Decoration Day. never seen my daddy's grave. Don't bother me, it ain't marked anyway. 'Cause I've got dead brothers in Lauderdale South. I've got dead brothers in East Tennessee. My daddy got shot right in front of his house. He had no one to fall on but me. It's Decoration Day. I've a mind to go spit on his grave. If I was a hill, I'd have put him away. We'll fight till the last Lawson's last living day. We'll fight till the last Lawson's last living day. We'll fight till the last Lawson's last living day. Here's what I'm really nervous about playing, because it's kind of a little hard for me to play. But it's a more recent country song. Most of the country songs on Covered Country, the record I did recently, are older. And this one, I have gum in my mouth. I was trying to think of an elegant way to take the gum out of my mouth, but there really is not. I could just spit it on the floor, I guess. Well, let's give it a try. This is one I'll warn you in advance. This could be a problem. Rolls out like a welcome mat to a better place than the one we're at. And I ain't got no kind of plan. I've had all of this town that I can stand. But I've got friends out on the coast. We can jump in the water and see what floats. We've been saving for a rainy day. Let's beat the storm and be on our way. It don't matter to me, wherever we are is where I wanna be. And honey, for once in our life, let's take our chance and roll the dice. I can be your lucky penny. You can be my four-leaf clover. Starting over. This might not be an easy time. There's rivers to flow and hills to climb. Some days we might fall apart. Some nights might be cold and dark. But nobody wins afraid of losing. And the hard roads are the ones worth choosing. Someday we'll look back and smile. Know it was worth every mile. It don't matter to me, wherever we are is where I wanna be. And honey, for once in our life, let's take our chance and roll the dice. I can be your lucky penny. You can be my four-leaf clover. it don't matter to me. Wherever we are is where I wanna be. And honey, for once in our life, let's take our chance and roll the dice. I can be your lucky penny, she can be my four-leaf clover, starting over. All right, well, maybe I shouldn't have done that one, but yeah, you know, who needs to practice the songs before you play them? I mean, that's a song by Chris Stapleton, and curiously, I don't follow like recent like country music that much, and somebody, my friend Gwendy, told me about him, and then my little sister Jennifer also was a big fan of his, and so I started listening to music, and I was like, you know, when you say everybody, I like old country music, well, he's pretty fucking great, actually. I mean, he really is. Go back and listen. And it's not all like heartfelt stuff. Some of it's like honky tonk kind of stuff. It's pretty cool stuff. Here's one you may know. I haven't practiced this for months, so God knows what's going to happen here. But please, we're all friends here. I can fuck up. I can screw up. Living on the road, my friend, is gonna keep you free and clean. Now you wear your skin like iron and your breasts as hard as kerosene. You weren't your mama's only boy, but her favorite one, it seems. She began to cry when you said goodbye and sank into your dreams. Pancho was a bandit, boys. His horse was fast as polished steel. Wore his gun outside his pants for all the honest world to feel. But Pancho met his match, you know, on the border down in Mexico. Nobody heard his dying words. Oh, but that's the way it goes. All the federales say could have had him any day, only let him slip away. Out of kindness, I suppose. Lefty, he can't sing the blues all night long like he used to. The dust that Pancho bit down south ended up in Lefty's mouth. The day they let old Pancho low, Lefty split for Ohio, where he got the bread to go. Ain't nobody knows. All the federales say they could have had him any day, only let him slip away. Out of kindness, I suppose. Poets tell how Pancho fell, left his living in a cheap hotel. The border's quiet and Cleveland's cold, and so the story ends, we're told. Pancho needs your prayers, it's true, but save a few for Lefty too. He only did what he had to do, and now he's growing old. All the federales say could have had him any day, only let him slip away. Out of kindness, I suppose. A few gray federales say could have had him any day, only let him slip away. out of kindness, I suppose. I'll do one last one off of the country cover record. There's a country, kind of a legendary country. He's mostly known as a songwriter by the name of Guy Clark. And on this record, I actually have two covers of his music, and I'm debating which one to do right now. I guess it depends on which one I can find. Huh. Yikes. Just talk among yourselves while I look. There we go. A song called Magdalene. It's off of a Guy Clark record called Workbench Songs. It's also on my record, Covered Country. I ain't looking for trouble. I can't stay here tonight. Got to leave here on double if I want to see the morning light. Don't need no pistol for the tickets. I got just enough to get us down the line. I don't know what happens next. Your guess is just as good as mine. Move with me, Magdalene. I'm tired of the same old scene. There's a Greyhound leaving at midnight. If you came with me, it'd be like a dream. Come on, Magdalene. Move with me, Magdalene. I heard Mexico is easy. I wouldn't stay here if I could. Don't come along just to please me. Let's go while the going's good. Move with me, Magdalene. I'm tired of the same old scene. Let's go down to San Miguel. Let's go be somebody else tonight. Come on, Magdalene. Move with me, Magdalene. There's a Greyhound leaving at midnight. If you came with me, it'd be like a dream. Come on, Magdalene. Move with me, Magdalene. Don't forget your passport, Magdalene. Thank you, Mr. Clark. You know what? Just because I'm sitting here, I'm going to do the other one by him. This is I'm looking at the time here, but this is off of the first Guy Clark record, and it's called L.A. Freeway. Oops. Take that key. dishes. Make note of all good wishes. Say goodbye to the landlord for me. That son of a bitch has always bored me. Throw out them LA papers and that moldy box of vanilla wafers. Adios to all this concrete. Gonna get me some dirt road back street. If I can just get off of this LA freeway without getting killed or caught, I'll be down the road in a cloud of smoke to some land I ain't bought. It's you, old skinny Dennis, only one I think I will miss. I can hear that old bass singing, sweet and low like a gift you're bringing. Play it for me one more time now. Got to give it all you can now. I believe everything you're saying, just to keep on playing. If I can just get off of this LA freeway without getting killed or caught, I'll be down the road in a cloud of smoke to some land I ain't bought. Put the pink card in the mailbox, leave the key in the front door lock. They'll find it likely as not. I'm sure there's something we have forgot. Oh, Susanna, don't you cry, baby. Love's a gift that's surely handmade. We got something to believe in. Don't you think it's time we're leaving? If I can just get off of this LA freeway without getting killed or caught, I'll be down the road in a cloud of smoke to some land I ain't bought. Pack up all your dishes, make note of all good wishes. Say goodbye to the landlord for me. That son of a bitch has always bored me.
I'm gonna do one more. This is a song called Splinters, and it's off of the album Blisters.
Mr. Chance at a moon, swerving like a drunk's car around a roadblock. Glassy-eyed and brainwashed, howling like an idiot, turning up as always with nothing worth remembering. Not capable of feeling a twinge extra sensory. Thrilled about forgetting, thrilled about reliving each recycled bit, every jaded moment. Fortunately not capable of feeling a twinge extra sensory. Thrilled about forgetting, thrilled about reliving each recycled bit, every jaded moment. The world is getting smaller, I preferred it large. Now we move from a time when we slaughtered strangers to a new habit of murdering neighbors. Killers stare back across every clothesline. Mr. Chan's had a mood, twisting on a gibbet, trying to avoid a splinter. Mr. Chan's had a mood, twisting on a gibbet, trying to avoid a splinter. Mr. Chan's had a mood, twisting on a gibbet, trying to avoid a splinter. Glassy-eyed and brainwashed, howling like an idiot and turning up as always with nothing, nothing worth remembering. Mr. Chan's had a mood, twisting on a divot, trying to avoid a splinter. Mr. Chan's had a mood, twisting on a divot, trying to avoid a splinter. Mr. Chan's had a mood, twisting on the gibbet, trying to avoid a splinter. Alrighty. So is this like now me sitting here? I'm sitting here while it's live, just sitting here twiddling my thumbs. Good. That's what everybody wants to see.
Okay, so I can you hear me? Is it working? Okay.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed the covered country. You picked 9 songs, and they all sound very like you're kind of emotionally invested, not just covers, like they're personal to you. Was there a reason why you picked those specific 9?
Well, yeah, and that's true in various ways, for various reasons. Guy Clark has been a favorite of mine for many, many years. And when I worked it used to be a website called gearwire.com that I went around and interviewed musicians about their music gear. And one of the people, I went to his house in Nashville and interviewed him. And I was nervous as hell. And I never get nervous at anything. I mean, I don't even get nervous when I play, and I screw up half the time when I'm playing. And I don't, whatever, that happens. But I was nervous then. So having sat around and talked to him and had a cup of coffee with him and stuff made like a big impression on me. And I'm not someone that sort of thing normally makes a big impression. And I also love his music more so than that. If that had never happened, his music would have meant a great deal to me. And I kind of identify with that kind of songwriter sort of person. There's a dark kind of sensibility to that music, and I was fortunate enough to see him play here. He played at a solo show here one time. Then he also played at the Chicago Theater with Joe Ely and John Hyatt and Lyle Lovett. Just them sitting on the stage with guitars, and they just were talking and calling out songs, and kind of like what we would have done here if there had been other people sitting here. But so that's one, and all of them have a personal connotation. I growing up as a kid, I hated country music when I was like 12, 13. I grew up in South Florida, and the least cool thing you could freaking listen to was country music. But at that time period, there was a lot of really bad country music. And so what I was hearing was often not very good music. And then a few years later, I started to kind of go back and listen to stuff that was from not all that long before, maybe 4 or 5, 6 years before. And started thinking, wow, Red-Headed Stranger by Willie Nelson's a great record. And Johnny Cash has a ton of great records. And this was before,
any of the American recordings came out. And then John Anderson, I also do a cover of John Anderson's seminal Wind, and that song came out in the late 80s and I love that record. I think
that's a beautiful record. Your cover is beautiful.
And he's an interesting singer songwriter himself, and he's from Florida. He's from I believe Apopka, Florida, which is a bit further north than where I'm from. But they all have the song Starting Over. There was my friend Gwendy that I just said introduced me to that, was going through some things in her life, and that song meant something to her, and the fact that it meant something to her meant something to me. And so that's a hard song for me to play and sing, as is obvious from how I played and sang it today. But I love the song, and it does have a lot of them. Almost, I could go through all of them. They all have some kind of personal connection.
Right.
But I won't bore you with every single connection.
So you in this year you have a lot of big plans. You're going to start doing Come Alive. Is that it? The 1990s and 2000s. That's
actually already done. Thanatos.
Oh, it's all done.
It's done. It's mastered. It's ready to go. Thanatos Comes Alive. There are 2 shows. One at the Tremont Music Hall in Charlotte, North Carolina. I think that was 96, and then at Thurston's here in Chicago in 1997. So I regret Thurston's is no longer around. And what they are is we recorded a lot of shows on those tours to DAT, and most of them turned out absolutely horrible. Like there's one from Dallas where all you can hear are the vocals. And it cuts out. We did one at the Vic Theater during the Projekt Festival, and that one's okay, but it's not perfect either. There's a lot of problems with it too. And so these were the ones that were in the best shape, and I decided to do them. Sam Rosenthal at Projekt Records kind of cut them into tracks, and then we sent them to Martin Bose from the band Attrition over in England, and he's mastered the last couple things I've done, and done a fantastic job. This one was particularly difficult considering the source material, so I think they sound pretty good. But those will be up on Bandcamp on Wednesday. They will be streaming everywhere in May. But there's not going to be any physical release because it's so long. It would have had to have been a double CD,
right? Or
I'd had to cut stuff. And vinyl's just out of the question because it's super expensive, and it would have had to be a double record, which makes it even more expensive. So they will be up, and I feel strongly about kind of putting those out there just because I think it's, I don't know, my own personal history.
Right. Yeah. That's important. And I also wanted to ask, because you mentioned that Thurston's is no longer in Chicago. It doesn't actually have to be Chicago, but do you have a favorite venue to play at? And also it could be different, but just see shows as well.
Well, it's very different in a lot of the places that were my favorite places to play at don't exist anymore. So there's that little bit of a problem. I'm trying to think of the places I've done. Door number 3, that downstairs at Double Door. I played one show there, and I loved that spot. I thought it was great. I liked Thurston's a lot. Vic Theater, we played at the Projekt Festival. Now, if tomorrow they said you can play at the Vic Theater, it would be very empty. So I would really want to play at the Vic Theater. There'd be like 35 people there, and that's always unpleasant to play in a giant place where there's nobody. There was a place in Columbus, Ohio, that I played a show at, Kit Kat Club, I think it was called. And it is regrettably, I believe, gone too now. But people who lived in Columbus back in the 90s will remember that. The man who owned it was just lovely. That's the one thing that stuck in my mind, because a lot of times when you're traveling around, the people who run the clubs and own the clubs are most definitely not lovely.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had people try to pay me, try to stiff me many times. I've had people try to pay me with cocaine.
Wow.
There's like, not all of them, but I'm going to say it's more than half are not people that
shady
that are dubious people. There was a goth coffee house in Detroit, Ascension, UK. I think I'm pretty sure it's gone too. That was a good place to play. There was another little goth coffee house in Houston, Texas. I loved playing in Houston, Texas.
Really?
Yeah. It was it's funny because we played there at this little tiny coffee house. It was packed. And then we played there again like a year later, but we played at this place called The Abyss, which is giant. I think who was it? Somebody like what's the A number of really big bands played there right before us. And then when I saw the schedule, I was like, what? And we go there to play in this giant aircraft hangar looking place. And the same number of people there. It's like the same 65 people crammed into the other place are now there at this giant, and it looks empty. But the audiences were always really cool in Houston, I found. Elysium in Austin, Texas, I did an acoustic show with a friend of mine, Tim Larson, at Elysium, and the guy who runs that's pretty wonderful. I think they're still open. But it's a kind of they did a goth night. We played. It's funny because any other city in the country, I think we would have been bottled off of the stage because it was I had come there and played a show, and the guy who pretty much booked the show has a band there, or had one there that was a pretty cool little project. The name's eluding me now. Exit was the name of his project, but he booked the other band that he booked to play with us. Nobody really much cared for, so they didn't have a following. And I wanted, ideally for me, if I do that sort of thing, I want to play in the middle. I don't want to be the main act because not a lot of people are going to come see me anywhere. But Austin, Texas, that show went. I played really well, but the turnout was dismal. And so the owner had us come back and play again, and he put me on a bill that was a sold out promo show with DJ Z Trip. And all these DJs, and so it's and then suddenly they announce us. They say the name of the band wrong. They say it was and get up there with the acoustic guitar. But the strangest thing happened then. Everybody kind of just sat down on the floor and paid attention, and they were cool with it. We played, and then we left. Aww. And it was like they didn't care what kind of music it was as long as it was music, and that is such a rare thing to happen. Everybody always thinks I'm ragging on goths or goth clubs, and I am not, because I love goth music, and a lot of the people that are fans of the music I play are goth. Right. But playing at a goth club, is, with the exception of Chicago, Chicago's a different creature when it comes to that stuff. But 90% of the other places, if you play at a goth club, even with a band, boy, it's not a good experience usually because. And I understand why. When I was 19, when I was 20 years old, 19 years old, when I went to the goth club or any club, I didn't want to see some band unless it was somebody I really knew. I wanted to dance. And so this band is interrupting my dance line. That's kind of what you're doing when you're put in that situation. And so those are my least favorite places to play. But, Chicago has so many places. I mean, I played at Lounge Acts and Neo and Thurston's, Vic Theater, the Old Bottom Lounge. I've played at what's Uncommon Ground. I did a show a couple years ago right before Christmas there, and it wasn't super well attended, but they were very easy to deal with. It's the people I don't know. I don't think it's the same people that are there now, but they were lovely. Anyway.
So you came from you're from Florida, and when did you move here first?
I moved to Chicago in 1992.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. So most of your adult musical career here.
Yeah, everything was. I never had a record released when I lived in Florida. A lot of the first record mostly was written when I was there, and it was half recorded when I lived there, and then we recorded about half of it when I lived in Florida, and Sam Rosenthal, Projekt Records, is the other recording half of about. I guess he's the other recording half of. Probably 3 of the Thanatos records. One of the most recent ones, Portland, and then the first 2.
Okay.
And so we recorded half of it when I lived in Florida. Then I moved here, and we recorded the second half, and then it came out the following year. So I lived here for 2 years, and I moved to LA. Then I moved back here, and then I was here for a while, and then I moved to Florida, and then I moved back here. I've been here this time about 17 years, I think.
Wow. And you haven't eaten animal flesh in over 20 years.
At least, yeah. I mean, I was a vegetarian when I was 16, but then I backslid a little bit with fish for a while. But since my son was born, and he's 24, and probably the year before that, so probably 25, I haven't eaten any meat, and I've been vegan for over a year now.
Oh, okay. No, okay.
And I was always kind of vegan at home, but it was just,
Right.
it seemed like it was a pain in the butt to do it, like when you're out at restaurants, but it really isn't.
That's it.
Isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, just avoid going to steakhouses,
Yeah.
which I never went to anyway. So
Yeah. I respect that. Same here, but I don't judge anyone.
Yeah, I mean, people can eat whatever they want. I don't preach about it.
I
I just, there's been friends of mine, people I've known over the years who, good naturedly give me a hard time about it. But then, you get a little older and suddenly they're having heart problems and they're having, these medical problems like that. And, I'm not.
Right.
So,
right.
And then, and it's not like the rest of my life I've been so careful and such a health nut. I mean, that's the one thing you can point to that I actually did that was healthy. So,
yeah. So you also are going to do another, I don't know if you started, but covering 70 songs? Yeah,
and that was going to be the next thing on the list, was to do that. And I kind of maybe have pushed that back. My aim was to do three records this year, not necessarily release them, but get them done. And that one was going to be next. And it was not going to be like the Covered Country is the first record that I've ever done that's all me. It's just me and an acoustic guitar. And it was recorded by William Faith at 13 Studio here in Chicago. And I had planned to have Sam Rosenthal add stuff to it. And maybe he might not have even had time to do it if I'd asked him. But William convinced me to just leave it like that, which I was leery of. But when I listen to it, I'm more or less happy with it. I'm never 100% happy with anything that I do. I think that there's probably something wrong with you if you do music and you listen to something going, that's perfect. The closest thing to a record I would listen to of mine and go, there's no mistakes on it, is probably Blisters.
Okay.
And that's, but I don't play on that record at all.
Right.
I don't play a note on it. I think I might play harmonica on one song, but I don't play at all. That was all William Tucker, for the most part, played all the instruments, and he was a fabulous musician. So there was really no point to me playing while he was there. So,
can you pick an album from start to finish that's great, every song? Because that's not always the case.
It's funny because I think there's a couple, like the first two records, there's some stuff that I think is kind of filler, but it was sort of like, I was kind of shocked that anybody was putting a record out by me, so I tried to stuff everything I could get onto it. And then the second record, there's some songs that they weren't finished. They were like, they needed like a full band, and we weren't really doing that, but I put them on the record anyway. And so those things are problematic, but I don't think the songs are bad. So I mean, there isn't a single record I've released that I listened to and I really regret anything on it.
No.
I think Blisters is probably the best from beginning to end. But there's a record called The Exterminating Angel, which was never released physically. It's only digital. And I think that record is one that is really a really good record. It kind of almost gets a little more like shoegaze music.
Nice.
Not really on purpose, but when I listen to it now, I kind of go, and there's some live versions of the tracks recorded at actually, what is that place? It was on Chicago, Dark Room. Is that the name of it?
There was a
Dark Room. Because speaking of favorite places to play, and there was a guy named, the sound man there was a great guy. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. But that was a great place to play, and some of those songs were actually recorded there. And that record, I think, stands out to me as something that I also feel like it kind of got overlooked a little bit.
Okay, right. Yeah. Do you have an absolute favorite song?
On each record, I could go through like some of my favorite songs are from Embassy to Gaius. Like I really think the title track "Embassy to Gaius" is a really
second.
That's the second record.
Yeah.
I think that the title track and the song "Von Stauffenberg." Von Stauffenberg is basically about plans that like to do something righteous that don't work out, and it's about Klaus Schenk von Stauffenberg who tried to blow up Hitler, basically. But it's also about a rebellion that was planned in the I forget what now, it's eluding me now, one of the ghettos that were during that same time. They were going to have an uprising, but everything went wrong, and also the Russians arrived, and so it never happened. And so that's and I mixed those two things together. And I think it's a really good song. Unfortunately, it doesn't really come off great live, especially not acoustic.
Mm-hmm.
So I rarely play it. I was going to play, there's a song called Oklahoma City Ballroom off of the I Am Not Joe record that I like a lot, which is, it's hard to describe the idea is. Basically, it's about a trucker who meets a trans woman while out driving. That's basically what it's about. And I actually wrote it in Oklahoma City when I was working with a band doing merchandise for them. And, after a while, after you're out for like 3 weeks doing that kind of stuff, you're like, you're kind of out there. And then you're in Oklahoma City. What the hell else is there to do there?
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
So.
Right. So you have been in this business a long time, like late 80s? Or a little after that.
A little after. I mean, I started,
young.
The first music we put out was actually the project started out as a cassette label. So we put out a record, I want to say in 84 or 85 was the first thing we released. If you have the CD version of This Endless Night Inside, it has some of that stuff is a hidden track on the end of the record.
Mm-hmm.
But the first actual record came out in 93. And there was some compilation stuff a little bit before that. But yeah, I've been doing it for a long time.
Do you this is a broad question, but from then to now, like, what are the basic things that you notice changing in the scene? A lot to do with technology, things like that.
That stuff. I mean, like when you say scene, I always think.
I know
like
it's hard
the
to
scene of like a particular genre in a
really
particular town, and I never like.
That's what
I never
I love.
really had like a scene. I was never a local band anywhere. Really,
you kind of get put into a scene though, kind of.
I mean, I think most of the people when I first moved to Chicago, there were a lot of like industrial people who were into industrial rock and goth, and that was like my group of friends.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the people I knew, and so I guess there was that, but I don't really know that the music really. But as far as the technology and things like that, my first 2 records are on tape.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one, part of it's on tape as well. And so there's that change. The funny thing is that everybody loves all that. Like, I think that recording technology has made things so much easier on people, everybody except me, because I'm much more comfortable with hardware than software.
Yeah.
And so that's an obvious thing that's changed. I think mostly how music is distributed. Right now, I think it's actually better. Back then, you had to put out a CD. And if you put out a CD or vinyl, because vinyl was dying, was pretty much dead as a doornail when I appeared. But people still put stuff out. Mm-hmm. But you had to get it distributed. And then the distributor had to put it in a store. And the distributors usually weren't working for you. They didn't give it. They might, they usually wouldn't even take small labels on. But if they did, they didn't do anything for them. And so you had to sell them at shows, or you had to do this or that. And now you can just put stuff up online. And I think all the streaming services, especially Spotify, I think have been really kind of helpful to me and empowering in a way, because it's like there are people all over the world. I'm looking at, there's somebody in like, India listening to my music, or the United Arab Emirates, or whatever. Right? And there would have been no chance of those people hearing that music before. And then there's stuff like Bandcamp. Now, I'm not a big fan of Bandcamp for streaming, because people like think they're doing a fighting for the artist when they do Bandcamp streaming, but you aren't. They don't pay anything. All the other ones pay fractions of a cent, but Bandcamp pays nothing. But Bandcamp is really a download service, and so I think I like them for that, and it's also a great way to discover music. And so they're great, because like to get on all the streaming services, you have to sign up with somebody and pay them, or you have to have a distributor or a label or whatever to do it for you. So that's a little bit of a pain in the butt for smaller artists. I mean, for me, the Projekt Records obviously does it, so it's not a hassle for me, and I don't pay anybody anything. Oh, I pay them a percentage, obviously. But Bandcamp, anybody, you can go record your music in your bedroom on your little, Tascam digital 4-track and put it up on Bandcamp. And if you work hard at it, you can get people to hear it.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the amazing thing right now, and there is so much good music. As an old
Yeah.
geezer, it drives me insane when people my age are like, "There's no good music today," and then they pull out these
Yeah.
bands that they like that are like Foreigner and Boston and all this garbage like that, and that stuff is garbage. I don't care. I mean, yeah, maybe technically proficient or whatever, but all that music is it's just crap to me. And I didn't listen to it then. And like the kind of big rock acts that I thought were different and listened to when I was a kid were like Blue Oyster Cult, because they did some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Like check out the song "Revenge of the Vera Gemini," which is one of the '70s songs I want to do to cover. I'm really trying to work on that one, and it's a little tricky for me to do that, but I'm working on it. And but yeah, I mean, I think there's so much good stuff out there. There's just it's almost overwhelming.
It is. It is. I have a show, and I tried to play old and new music, mostly dark music, but there almost is too much music, and that's not a problem. It just takes so much time to actually, like, I mean, they're all good. There's a lot. That's a lot. It's amazing, but there's also so many good, like the ones you mentioned. I agree, but a lot of old bands that are still amazing, so I play them too.
Well, yeah, there are. I mean, I don't mean it like saying everything that's old is bad. It's as dumb as saying everything that's new is bad. But there's I mean, stuff that came out in the '70s and '80s. There's all. I mean, like there's a lot of like great like kind of punk rock bands, and there's I mean the '70s has a lot of garbage, but I mean looking back on like kind of the disco era, there was some fantastic disco. I didn't start really realizing how good a lot of the disco music was, especially from a production standpoint, until I started making records, especially the third record, because we used to sit around listening to like Saturday Night Fever soundtrack and Herbie Hancock and stuff like that from that era. And it really made an impression. Like Godfrey Diamond produced records. I mean, he produced disco stuff, but he also produced Lou Reed, like Coney Island Baby. And so there's just the production level of that stuff is just, it's awe-inspiring. Like, Donna Summer, some of that stuff, just awe-inspiring production values.
Because of technology, and like you said, you can actually just be in your house, have equipment, and record a song and put it out. Do you think that obviously has a lot to do with so much new music? I mean,
well, you don't have to go to a studio.
They're still talented. I love them, but they're still
and also, and the thing is, there's a lot of music.
Affordable,
it's not that all of it is good, because there's a lot of people producing music that's really terrible on their own, but there's no gatekeeper. But the gatekeeper is, if it's bad, people generally aren't going to listen to it. Not always, but generally. I think that's part of it. But I also, I mean, I tend to my records aren't recorded in my bedroom, because I've thrown up my hands at software stuff. I will record demos and things like that, but I usually go record at Sam Rosenthal's studio, or I recorded. There are other friends of mine here, a guy named Greg Lucas, who has a band called Manipulator, which you take out all the vowels, and that's how it's spelled. And he does some great music. I don't know if he's doing anything new now, but I recorded a large portion of the I Am Not Job record with him years ago. And so Sam Rosenthal, I did Portland. The new one I did at William Fay's studio. So I tend to still go to a studio,
right.
But usually I'm not like paying. It's usually like they're just doing it as a favor. Doing William, obviously, that's what he does for a living, so I pay him. But Sam Rosenthal's a partner in the band, so I go do it at his home studio, and I'm not paying a studio. I think that is a hurdle that a lot of small bands have a hard time with, and I think there are many studios that are really good and like righteous about working with smaller bands, but not all of them. A lot of them will try to rip them off, and you don't need, if you have the knowledge of technical expertise yourself, you don't really need a studio, if you're, depending on what kind of music you're doing too. If you're recording a symphony, different thing. Or if you're not I'm just not a good engineer myself, so I really need somebody else to be doing the engineer. I can like the production stuff, like understanding where the mic should go and the guitar and what sound you're going to get for that. These things I understand, but as far as like the board and the processes, I'm pretty in the software. I'm hopeless with all of that, so I usually have somebody else doing it.
So I enjoyed your article about the worst and best U.S. presidents.
Yes.
But if you had to pick like your favorite world leader, like moving out of the U.S. If you had to pick, it can be more than one. But who would it be and why?
I have a kind of a diametrically opposed two people that will be these things are not like the other.
Okay,
sort of thing. I really admire Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
I have a degree in African history, and I was in school when apartheid was still intact, and Nelson Mandela was in prison. And not only I admire not just the ideals that he stood for, but how when he got out of prison, there was no vindictiveness. They did truth and reconciliation. There weren't people hanging from lampposts. It was not like what it's the opposite of what happened in Zimbabwe and some other places. And I think the apartheid regime was probably at least, if not more, vicious than the Rhodesian regime. If at least as bad, probably a lot worse, at least in sheer numbers, because it's a bigger country. But his pragmatism on top of that, I think that it's easy to be like having an ideologue who I believe this and this must be so, and but he didn't play that game. And then also I think that when he came out, a lot of people were angry with him because he stood by some people who maybe were fairly reprehensible people who were also world leaders. Muammar Gaddafi, I think, was one of the ones that leaps to mind, who was not somebody you admire very much, generally speaking. But his response was, these are the people that helped us. Am I going to turn my back on them now? It's not like he provided any material assistance to them, but he wouldn't denounce them. And that's not the only one that was true of. People he didn't necessarily share their ideology, but at the same time, he couldn't forget that while the United States and Britain sat on our hands for the most part, some other countries did help. And so there's a lot of things. It's a never-ending list of things about him that would be good. And then there's two other people I have a fascination with, if not, admiration's a little difficult because there's in the one case there's a great deal of kind of racism there, but a man of his time. And Winston Churchill. Now, do I agree with Winston Churchill on colonialism and things like that? Hell no. But at the same time, in a certain place and time, he was resolute. I remember that movie that just came out, the one with Winston Churchill that won the Oscar for Gary Oldman. Yeah. I hate that movie more than anything.
I don't know if I saw it.
It's awful.
I don't remember.
And the performance, it's Winston Churchill as Mr. Magoo. It's like he's full of doubt, and Winston Churchill maybe had like 5 seconds of doubt about himself in his entire life.
Right.
He had he was not prone to having, even when he was the architect of colossal disasters, he had no doubt that he was still right. And people forget that he also, here's the thing. This guy was this real conservative person, and his racial views are, I don't know, it's more a white man's burden kind of crap than it is like the hostile, kind of KKK sort of racism, but it's still racism anyway, to slice it. And, but he also, when he was in the Liberal Democrats in England, he's one of the people who was the architect of the safety net there. I mean, there was that matters to me when you stand up for working people, even in the context of you're a person whose politics I completely disagree with. I'll always give you credit if you are still legitimately standing up for working people, even if I dislike your politics in general. So that's one that's odd that it falls outside. I mean, political thinkers who were never necessarily in power,
right? Different, yeah.
That I admire. I mean, like the writer Mikhail Bakunin, anarchist writer. His takedowns of Marxist communism are pretty fantastic, actually. And there's a couple of things he wrote that were written before any Marxist had ever come to power, and he predicted exactly what was going to happen. I mean, I'm talking more Leninist than Marxist, but Marxist-Leninist. And he predicted exactly what happened in literally every case. And so I'm a fan of his. In some cases I'm a fan of Durruti, the Spanish anarchist. He wasn't just a thinker; he was actually out doing it, and there are some excesses attached to his name as well. I don't necessarily want a Durruti roaming through the Midwest anytime soon. But again, the kind of sticking to your guns and fighting for the regular people is something I always admire.
Yeah, that's very admirable. So I love this question. I don't know that I could answer it right now, but because you love history, if you could get on a time machine right now and go back to a certain place, period of time, where would you want to go?
Well, it's funny. The places that I read the most about and probably know, I mean, I have a degree in African history. And most of what, I mean, you study certain areas. What I focused on was like East Africa. But then the things I studied kind of on my own and read on my own about it a lot are the American Civil War. I know a great deal about the American Civil War, and I know a great deal about World War II, specifically in Europe. I'm a little weaker on the Asian theater. But I don't want to go back. I don't want to go visit World War II.
No.
And I don't want to go visit the Civil War. I don't need to like be there watching the horror of that stuff. I wouldn't want to subject myself to that. But if I could go back off the top of my head, there are these churches in Ethiopia at Lalibela, which I wish I could go to them now. But boy, would I love to go back in time and see them being built. They are actually cut out of the rock. They're not. They're like there's like a giant rock mountain, and they literally cut the churches out of the rock. You look down on them; they're like cathedrals. Boy, I would love to see those being made. I would love to be in Arles watching Van Gogh and paint. You know, I you know, there's.
He is a painter, by the way.
Yeah, I think a lot of the things I would want to go see would be related to arts and perhaps music and things like that. That's like, even though I don't really study like music history and stuff like that. I don't read music. People are very shocked. I don't read any music. But the only music biography I can remember reading in recent times was Lou Reed. The one by what's his name, Anthony. I can't remember his name. So it came out not that right after Lou Reed died, and it's really good biography. That's about it. I don't really I care more about what they do than what they said, which is a good thing if you're a Lou Reed fan, because he was kind of a jerk by a lot of approximations. At least, you know, maybe not to his circle of friends, but
yeah. So during this pandemic, I mean, you love music. Did you have one album or two that you noticed you were listening to kind of get through it? Like,
well, you know, it's funny because I listened to one of the things I remember listening to during the pandemic was actually because I felt terrible because he died during the pandemic. I was listening to John Prine, The Missing Years, a lot, and I remember I kind of got trapped. Like I was moving and I had nowhere to go, and I went to stay at a friend of mine's house for 2 weeks during the pandemic. I wound up staying there for like 3 months or 4 months or something. And I remember sitting on the porch at their house listening to John Prine. Actually, the city was on fire while I was doing that, if I recall.
Oh, wow.
Parts of it, anyway. And so that's one. And I often go back to. There's certain people I often go back to. And John Hyatt's another one. I was also looking for new music. That was one thing I was very much doing.
Same.
I was online, and it was also like everybody else was doing the same thing, where you're looking for bands to listen to. I'll never come up with everybody I listen to because there are so many of them.
Yeah.
But I was going through Bandcamp and just looking for music. And it's funny because there's some bands that are like people I kind of know, and I know their names, but I don't remember the name of their band. Like, we got Carlos down in Santiago, Chile, had some really, really cool music that he put out. It's Jupiter's something, I want to say. Maybe I'm getting the name wrong, but it's like I think of it as Carlos's music, and I don't, and so I listen to that a lot, and I bought it on Bandcamp and downloaded it and was listening to it. But yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to say. I didn't really go backwards. I kind of started listening to new stuff.
Yeah. So, what's next?
Well, right now, what I'm doing is I'm in the process of trying to write a couple of original Christmas songs to do a Christmas EP.
Yeah.
And I was gonna that was gonna be later, but the thing is, like, you kind of I have to get it done sooner rather than later, because then if it's gonna come out in time for this Christmas, I really have to have it in the can fairly soon. So I think that is what I'm going to do. I was going to do a whole album, but I think I may either do a single or an EP. Like I said, the live thing's coming out. I was going to do a second live thing, but I've kind of cooled on that. I may do it later, but like a lot of that stuff is already up at Bandcamp. It's just not mastered, and some of the songs are bad, and I would take them off of it. So I'm not adding to what's out there. I'd be subtracting. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that. But then there's the next record, the next all original Thanatos record, and this is a rare one that's not going to have any covers on it. Because even the ones that have 20 songs on them, the first two have like 20, 24 songs on them, and there's maybe one or two covers on them. And I don't think Blisters has a cover, but all the rest of them do. And but it's going to be called Love Songs for the Indigent.
Yeah.
And that's what what I'm writing now. And I think the last couple of records I've done, I didn't pay a great deal of attention as much attention to the lyrics as I did in previous ones. The Portland, a lot of the lyrics were old lyrics that Sam Rosenthal had sent me many, many years ago, and we kind of took them and they're actually on the same piece of paper of where the lyrics for songs from the first record. And this like sent to me 30 years ago, at least, probably more like 40 years ago.
This is with DJ Puzzle?
No, that's with Sam Rosenthal. Oh, the Indigent song, I'm talking to my friend Jason Donnelly, DJ Puzzle, about doing that with him. He lives in Los Angeles. And we've kind of agreed that we're going to do something, but we haven't. It's, who knows? I mean, a lot of times we always want to do something with he's a great, great producer, and he does a lot of interesting stuff. And I'd love to do a record with him because he's the perfect kind of person, because it's very much different from what I normally do.
Yeah.
But hopefully we'll get something sorted out. Also, I mean, right now, the tapes for my first record and the third record are at Electrical Audio, and I've been educated now on tapes. The owner there educated me, and a guy named John that works there. Both of them, when I talked to them before I brought the tapes over, they educated me on why you need to bake a 30-year-old tape. The tapes they get moisture in them. I won't go through that whole thing because I don't really understand it all well. But you have to bake the tapes before you transfer them. So we're going to remix. The first record's going to be remixed and remastered and put out again as a remix remastered thing. We're going to do some other things about that. And the Blisters record, well, a lot of the stuff is not going to be. I don't even know what's on that tape, because the tape is not going to have most of the stuff that makes that record. That record is samples. It's all samples. And there's guitar parts and vocals, and there's some bass parts, and drum tracks. But the drum tracks are probably ran virtual, and the samples are not going to be on the tape. So God knows what's on that tape. And so depending on what's on it, I might have a completely new thing done with those. Just like all right, take these things and make a new record with somebody who maybe wants to do that. I don't know who, possibly Jason Donnelly. I think I may have mentioned it to them. I'm fairly certain he hasn't agreed to do this yet. But there's that, and then eventually I'll do Embassy to Gaius. I have the tapes for that, and I will get around to doing that. That is one that is a real I've always felt that one. I don't like to go back and revisit stuff. There's a very specific reason I'm doing this. It has nothing to do with remastering and mixing the records. It has to do with money and publishing and stuff. And I will bore people with that, because as you get older as a musician, it's harder and harder to make any money doing it. And I'm not going to people are you going to go on tour? Yeah, so I can play in front of 4 people around the country, and some cities I do okay, and other ones, most of them I wouldn't. And the maximum audience is going to be pretty small. And then it used to be you got paid. Now nobody. It's like you want to do it for the door gig. You want to pay for a percentage, play for a percentage of the door or whatever. That means you get nothing always.
Right.
Always. And so I'm just not going to do that, and I can't lose money. And so publishing, trying to exploit your publishing of I have 100+ songs, and I'm writing new ones. So that's part of that's the main avenue, and it may not work. Right. But we're gonna take a shot at doing some publishing things with the first several. I mean, they're all published already, but we're gonna try to exploit the publishing in various ways.
Yeah, you have a lot going on.
I am, and 90% of it I probably won't get done, because I'm procrastinating. Just coming here, I was oh, I don't want to go, and it's gonna be hard, and I'm gonna play terrible, and so I'll make up 100 excuses to not do something,
to not get out of the house.
Yeah,
we're so used to it. I don't know.
I kind of am like real big on the, like if you invite me to go do something and I say maybe, that means no.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic kind of made it worse.
Oh yeah.
Where like I don't there's very few nightclubs I actually have any interest in going to. I would go to like the Nocturna, the Scary Lady Sarah thing. I don't go to it regularly, but I will go to that because that's a cool place. It's because it's like there are people like that are 18 there, and there are people older than me there.
Yeah.
And so it's this great mix of humanity, and they also don't play the same freaking 6 old songs. They mix in the old stuff is there, but there's a lot of forward looking with Sarah as a DJ, which I think is wonderful. But anyway, that aside, she would laugh at this because I think I've been there once in the past 5 years. So she'd be like, yeah, you come all the time. But going to shows and things like that is even tough for me. And like it's always like I do have tickets to go see Adult.
Me too, with Contravoid.
Yes.
Yes, I'm so excited.
I love Adult, and I was really annoyed at how I had to buy those tickets. I was a grouchy old man about that.
Yeah, me too.
Because it's like, wait, I need to download your app. I have 4,000 apps on my phone.
Right.
And I didn't do it. I didn't either. And they're like, well, you can. They were nice enough about it.
I was like, you're going to look my name up.
Yeah, and that's what they said they would do. They were nice enough about it. Once they explained it to the old man, he stopped yelling at them to get out of his yard. And so I am going to go see Adult. I wanted to go see Angel Olsen and oh my goodness. Why am I blanking on her name?
I don't know.
It's oh my God. This is what happens when you're old. The artist whose name I can't think of, I actually, no offense to Angel Olsen, I actually like more than Sharon Von Etten.
Oh, okay.
Sharon Von Etten and Angel Olsen, but I mean, I was looking at it, I don't know, I maybe I'll go. I don't know. I was thinking about it, and I actually looked at Pitchfork, and I'm like, I used to go to, at one point I went to not every festival, but I would go to 3 or 4 festivals in Chicago a year. I would go to Lollapalooza.
I did.
I would go to Pitchfork. I would go to Riot Fest. I would go to all 3 of them. And what I liked the best about all of them were the early, I would get there at 11 o'clock. And the early bands that were playing, I discovered some like Bomba Estéreo. That's where I discovered them at Lollapalooza. A lot of hip hop stuff like St. John. And there's all these people that I saw. I want to say I saw him at Lollapalooza, but also getting to see like Joey. I like hip hop music a lot. And Joey Badass is another one I really like. And so I got to see those bands at one or more of those festivals. And so the pandemic, even when they started having them again, I just kind of turned off. And the same damn bands play at all of them. And I've seen all the bands now. And so it's kind of starting to bore me. Right. Although the National are playing it. And I'll go if they played tonight.
You did covers.
I did a cover of that. Yeah. And if the National played tonight and then they played tomorrow, I would go tomorrow too. Yeah. Like, every time I've seen them, I'm like, I'd like to see them again.
I've seen them a couple times.
I've seen them 3 times, and I would go to see them. They will never stop being it. They're possibly there's 2 bands that are like kind of big that play in big venue kind of bands that leap out at me as bands that I really, really like, and the National and Interpol would be the 2 that leap out at me. I really think those bands are super, super good bands. Yeah. And their material is like, in some ways, it gets less kind of commercial as it goes on. Like it's like they're not trying to write pop hits; they're writing great. The last National record was amazing, and there isn't a pop hit on that record. So maybe there was a hit. I don't know because I don't pay attention to that. But it didn't sound like a pop hit to me. All right.
Do you have like a desert island record or song? Like if you were stranded for a week and you had to, I know it's hard, but
that's basically impossible for me to say.
I always have an answer. That's why I always think someone will.
I don't know because I'd have it. Like the thing is, my mood is like I might say John Hyatt Walk On, and then I might say, there's a lot of David Bowie records that would be on that list. Probably like Hunky Dory. Lou Reed, Coney Island Baby would be one. Oh my God, I always forget the name of the record. The National one that has the Machine and Total Darkness song. I forget that one. That would definitely be one.
You wouldn't be able to go on this island.
Yeah, I would be screwed.
You're
on
only
the
allowed
island.
one.
I would be dead.
Maybe
if I had one, I wouldn't know what it would be. I mean, actually, the best thing would be to like get like some really long record. Jesus Christ Superstar. I like Jesus Christ Superstar quite a bit.
But over and over.
Yeah, I could listen to that over.
You
and
could?
over.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this was amazing. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
I didn't realize the time. Yes, thank you. And I wanted to also thank Michelle Rowland in New Zealand. Hi. I'm not sure what day it is there. Yeah.
I'm not sure what day it is here.
But yeah, he kind of got this hooked us up to do this, and I mean, you're welcome to come back at any time.
I live like walking distance from you too. I didn't walk here, but I do live walking distance, literally.
Right. Yes, please come back, and then we can talk. You can do the same thing. You can, yeah.
Right. I mean, maybe I'll come back and do some 70s songs.
Yes. Yeah. Whatever you want.
Yeah, I could do the 70s songs before I record them to see if they suck or not.
Yeah, we'll tell you. No, thank you so much. Everybody, this is Projekt Ogle, Thanatos, and did I say that correctly?
I say Thanatos, but I also pronounce the German car Mercedes. So my pronunciation, although I believe Thanatos is actually, I looked it up on one of those things online. I think that's close to what it is. Thanatos is actually close.
I went to mortuary science school, and thanatochemistry is what we had.
Well, it's a Greek word, and I looked up how they pronounce it in Greek, and I mean, I was surprised to find that how I pronounce it is close.
Okay. All right. So I'm somewhere near.
Yeah, it's all close enough. I don't speak Greek anyway, so.
So how, if you want to just let people know how we can follow you.
Well, Thanatos.biz is the website where I post.
Oh yeah.
A lot of stuff, and I'm doing like kind of blogs on different things, and then Twitter. I just started a Twitter specifically about music and Thanatos, and it's at Thanatos_music, I believe is what that is. And if you can't find that, at PA Ogle is my main Twitter, but that's kind of like if you want to hear me ranting about like everything from politics to sports to somebody who pissed me off. So I mean, it's less focused. Let's just say.
And Bandcamp.
The Bandcamp.
Be careful because there's a lot of bands with the same name.
Yeah, well, there's Thanatos. There's a Dutch metal band that came out around the same time we did in the 80s. That's the big one that sold a lot more records than we did, I'm sure. I always wanted to go on tour with them. Thanatos and Thanatos.
Yeah,
like
twins.
This band that's mellow and then
Satan's
hand over the land. I have their records. I've bought their records, by the way. So
I hope they bought yours.
I doubt it. but I'm not a big death metal fan. But hey, it is what it is. It's I mean, if you buy a Thanatos, the other Thanatos record, and you like death metal, you're probably gonna like it. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you buy like their records, you probably aren't gonna like my records. Although that's not true. There are a lot of black metal fans who actually like my music. Oddly enough.
Yeah. I could imagine.
All right. Well, I know we've gone way over our.
I know, but this was fun.
Yeah.
I still had a million questions. But next time. Anything else you want to say?
No, I'm fine. Thank you. Anybody that listened to this, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.